What's up, everybody? Welcome to Biohistory Raw TV. So today I want to make sure that this video gets out and is very clear about how I feel and why I am doing the things that I'm doing in this situation. Now, what am I talking about? So of course I've had battles online with people over the years, which, you know, it's just stupid things that eventually come out that it's not a big deal and we kind of all get over it and kind of move on. Excuse me, my allergies actually killing me today, kicking my ass. And one of those kind of, not battles, but those feuds, I guess you'd say, whatever, is former friend of mine, Bostin Lloyd. Now, I unfollowed Bostin quite a while ago after a conversation with a psychologist friend of mine that specifically wound up talking about him. We talked about him one day, and he really opened my eyes to a lot of things because I was actually mad at Bostin. I was actually pissed about some stuff he was saying, and he likes to fuck with people. He likes to fuck with me. That's like what he does, right? It's kind of his whole gimmick. He's just a clown. That's what he does. And the things he was saying was getting under my skin. And of course my friend was like, well, why? Here's why you shouldn't let that happen. Now, it's not your typical case of he's just an idiot, he's this, he's that. That's not what it is. The things that were discussed that day made me see things that were very profound and changed my outlook on Bostin and why I didn't want to fight with him anymore or even interact with him anymore, and why I don't want people fighting with him or interacting with him on my account now. Bostin came back to my page the other day and wrote something that I thought was stupid, and I said, okay, it just sounds like a Bostin Lloyd thing. Then a couple of other people jumped on there and started like kind of egging him on a little bit. And then finally one person jumped on and started to argue with them. Said, why don't you just leave Jerry alone? Why are you here? And I was like, fuck it. So I took everything down, blocked everybody, except for the person that was sticking up for me. And I'm like, I just need to put this out because nobody's talking about this. Nobody's even paying attention to this. And this is something that I think a lot of people could get a lot of insight from. So as I was talking to my friend about, months ago, actually it was almost a year ago, about the things that Bostin would say or do and how just weird it is that he does this shit. And it's entertaining because it's shit that we would never say or do, and we're like, how the fuck could someone, like, what the fuck? Like, you want to see the next crazy outlandish thing that he's going to say, but to him they're not crazy and outlandish. And I'm going to explain to you why. Now, first of all, let me say that I went undiagnosed with attention deficit disorder and dyslexia for most of my life, and even asthma, because I was in denial about there could be something wrong with me, and I didn't want to go get diagnosed. And my parents kind of just let things fall, and I kind of just gut through life. So they just, well, he's getting through life, so fine, whatever. And they never thought much about it. Once I was diagnosed with ADD and dyslexia, that made it really in my face about how there is something wrong with me. And that's how I felt. There's something wrong with me, right? And then I realized a lot of people are afflicted by these things, and that's okay, right? It's okay. We learn how to deal with it, and now I deal with my dyslexia and my ADD, and I feel like I'm a much better person because of it, and much more understanding because of it. And I think in this instance, this is what makes me so understanding towards the situation, which I'm not mad at Bostin, I'm not upset with Bostin at all, but I want to make sure that this is understood because I don't want other people to be upset with him for saying things to me or anyone else, and I don't want other people to go after him or argue with him or anything like that. That's not what we should be doing. So as I'm going through this conversation, talking about how I was, well, my friends explained to me how I was undiagnosed. He said a lot of people go undiagnosed with things because they don't really want to know, right? So when we got into it, eventually he said Bostin exhibits all of the signs, pretty much all of the signs, of someone with Aspergers, which is why he doesn't really interact with Bostin, because he said this person has a different way of seeing the world that we'll never see. Because he, in his personal opinion, he is a psychologist, that he said he feels like he would, if he walked into a doctor, he would absolutely be diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. So to me, that was a big statement because I was like, what? So if we go back to Jason Genova, Jason is autistic. And we saw the way he acted and stuff, and that fit with those things. Now, Jason Genova at the Olympia one year, a couple years ago, came right up to me with his mom and said, looked me right in the eye. And the first thing meeting Jason Genova, he said to me, the first thing upon meeting him in person was, Jerry, it's true, I have autism. And his mom smiled, and I said, okay, cool, man. And we just, I was like, I was caught off guard because it was our first interaction, but I was like, that's really good that he not just accepts that, but he mans up and he's accepting who he really is. And his mom was there to support him. And it was actually a really nice situation, a really nice thing. And I looked at Jason Genova different from then on, that I don't think the things that he did many times was done intentionally, but it is part of his autism. Now, that being said, I wanted to know why my friend thought that Bostin may possibly have Asperger's. I wanted to know why. So, well, what are you basing this on, right? So I'm going to send you the website that he sent me to show me, plain and simple. So Common signs and symptoms of Asperger's. These are common signs, which means that not everybody that exhibits one of these signs would be considered to have Asperger's. However, when you're nailing all of these things, almost everything, the signs are pointing to the doctor would sit down with you and probably diagnose you with Asperger's. So, problems making or maintaining friendships. Well, Boston doesn't have many friends. He has a lot of people online, but the only people he really interacts with is his wife and his kid and his family. Throughout the years, he's had not friends, he's had acquaintances and stuff like that, but he'll even say, like, I don't have a lot of friends. He'll say that right out, like, I don't have a lot of friends. So he doesn't really go out there and try to interact with people, or if he does, people don't know how to interact with him because of the way he acts. So therefore, he just doesn't have a lot of friends, right? Isolation or minimal interaction with social situations. Boston doesn't like to go in social situations. He said he doesn't like to do anything except maybe get some food, go to the gym, and hang out home with his wife, dogs, and kid. That's what he does. Like, he does not like to go to these expos. He's very awkward, I don't want to say insecure, but very off his element at an expo, which you would figure if you're online trying to get everybody to pay attention and look at you, why wouldn't you want to be at an expo where everybody's paying attention and looking at you, right? If you want to feed your ego, why wouldn't you want to do that in person? Because it's social situations with people with Asperger's, it's almost like it's too loud. It's too much for them to actually comprehend at the time. Like, it's just so much stimulation coming in on them that they have a hard time with that. So they avoid those social situations, which is what Boston does. Poor eye contact or the tendency to stare at others. If you've ever noticed Boston stare with that, like, he has this very strange stare, but also when he talks and stuff, he'll be like he really won't look you in the eye. He'll look all over the place, and he'll say things that he knows after they come out of his mouth are wrong when he's not trying to say things wrong. Like, there was a point in an Orlando expo where he said something to me about someone that I knew that was so, like, it was rude, it was mean, and then after he said it, he's like, oh, that probably was, I'm sorry, that probably wasn't good, I probably shouldn't have said that. Like, he caught himself, he knew it, although it just came flying out of his mouth. Like, he had no control over what he was saying at that point in time. Inability to recognize humor, irony, or sarcasm. Yes, humor to him is making fun of people. I don't think that, sarcasm-wise, I don't think that Boston understands what sarcasm is. I've seen him online not react to it. It's pretty much that's the way it goes. Inappropriate behaviors or odd mannerisms. Well, Boston has a lot of inappropriate behaviors, like selling drugs online, which he has admitted to that he no longer does, but he did. Like, that's inappropriate behavior to be talking about how you sell drugs, or even be talking about how you point people in the right direction to get the drugs. Like, you're out there saying that stuff. That's inappropriate behavior. If you do that on the DL in private, that's one thing, but putting it out there to the public, that's pretty inappropriate behavior, because that is stuff that can get people in trouble. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, just bear with me. Lack of common sense. That one speaks for itself. We know that Boston lacks much common sense. Tendency to engage in one-sided conversations about oneself. Here's what he does online. He goes up and puts up pictures, the best picture he can find of himself, and the worst picture of someone else. And he goes online and puts those out to try to show how great he is and how much better he is than everybody else, and how cool he is and how awful everybody else is and how awful everybody sucks. It's a one-sided discussion because it's from his house. It's not like he took the best pictures and they're debating in person. He won't do anything in person. It's one-sided, it's isolated, and it's all about him. And no matter what you do, he will sit there for the next 10 days around the clock to fight with you, because that is what it takes for him to have that one-sidedness to keep you from getting one over on him, which he feels like it's always him or you going back and forth. You have to get one over on each other, and it has to be him. So he has to do that 24 hours a day. That's Boston's personality. That is one of the symptoms and signs of Asperger's also. Fascination with certain topics. Drugs. Okay? Drugs. Fascination. Can't get over it. It's been years, and all the kid wants to talk about is drugs, 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 drugs. So obsessed, which obsessive behavior is another sign of Asperger's also. Interpretation of information as literal. We've seen him interpret things that are said that are... Anyways, we're not even going to get into that one. You guys can go back through his videos and watch that stuff, and you can see it very... the preface for a strict schedule or routine. Boston cannot be off his schedule or routine. He said it many times. He has to stay on his schedule. His life is better when he's on his routine. Now, we all have our schedule and routines, but think about only going to the gym, only eating your meals, only sitting at home. Boston has done that willfully. He has been on a lockdown like we have with Corona for years of his life because he does not want to go out and go off of his routine whatsoever. None of us like to go off our routines, but if he breaks his routine, it really throws him off. So he isolates himself and creates a world where his routine can't be thrown off because nothing else is there. So he limits his life in order to keep his routine. A scripted form of robotic type of speaking. Lack of inflection when talking, right? There's things he says that if he thought for a second, he might not say those things. Repetitive speech, he repeats shit over and over. Watch interviews on RX Muscle, he repeats shit over and over again, nonstop. Trouble using language in a social context, that's exactly what I was talking about. He started saying shit that all of a sudden he was like, oh my god, I shouldn't say that out loud in front of this person because that's that person's friend. Like he had no concept of what the fuck was going on. Cognitive behaviors, ability to understand technical or factual information. This is where he's like, oh, all this stuff about drugs, right? He feels like he's really good with that stuff, that's just something he can focus on, which is another sign of Asperger's, where you could pick one thing, which Rain Man is a perfect example of that movie, where he could do numbers. That was his thing. Everything else was off, but he could focus on that one thing. Drugs, not even bodybuilding. Drugs is that thing with Boston. Tendency to focus on details, which may result in missing the bigger picture. Yes. Yes, all the way yes. Yes, very much yes, right? Delay in motor skills, awkward movements, problem with coordination. I mean, we've seen him stumbling around, and we've seen him in person walking around. Sensitivity to loud noises, odors, clothing, or food textures. Loud noises, when he gets to the expos, he's very uncomfortable because of the loud noise in there. He feels, I guess, awkward, whatever the case may be. So he's antisocial, doesn't have friends. The thoughts of grandeur, which I think is really an important one to look at. Now, Boston himself has basically gone out there and said he's basically a pro bodybuilder without the pro card. Now, he keeps claiming it's so easy and he has the physique and he's going to do it. He's going to be pro size and all this stuff, and he failed at becoming a pro. And he didn't really try that hard. He did a few shows. He didn't place where he wanted to. He quit bodybuilding and said, well, I'm going to be a pro size. And then here we are. I mean, even at 270, he's a big kid, but he's not pro size. Like, he's talking about these Olympia guys. He stands like the Olympia guys. They fucking dwarf him. So in his mind, he sees himself looking like Phil Heath or one of these other guys. And he always sees himself as looking better than everyone else. And he always sees himself as the best one on stage. And he doesn't place where he thinks he should. Or when he thinks he's the best one, he'll put up pictures, and then all of a sudden that person will take the best picture of themselves and put up the best picture against Boston, and that person's actually better. But Boston took the shittiest picture he could find of them to put it up, because in his mind, he's so much better than everyone else, and he doesn't realize that that person may be better, and it was just an off picture of them. It's like this idea that he's so much smarter than everyone else, he's so much better than everyone else, and he's such a great person. That is the ideas of grandeur that he has. I mean, I get some other stuff here that was just like, I shake my head, like the routine and stuff, the lack of awareness of the surroundings too, which is another one. I'm going to tell the story now because I can, and because it was in the past, it doesn't really matter, but Boston has affected many people negatively, and these people do want to do him harm still. Like, he's offended people to the point where they want to do him harm. And this individual got right next to him, and what's fucked up was Boston and him were arguing online, and he told him, when I see you, I'm going to fucking crush you. When Boston was at one of these expos, this individual got right next to him. I mean, they were standing right behind him, listening to him. Boston saw him walk by. He had no concept that this dude was standing a foot away from him, listening to him, ready to just punch him in the back of the head. He said, I could have knocked this kid out from behind. He doesn't realize what's the point. He goes, I was listening to him talk and realized, not only is this stupid, he goes, but I want to do it anyways. He goes, I'm looking around in the middle of an expo. He goes, all I'm thinking is there's so many people around, there's so many cameras, there's so many phones. He's like, fuck, I want to hit this kid so bad. He's like, but I'm just going to be the one that gets fucked, so I'll wait it out. He's like, I'm going to make this kid a fucking piñata at some point. And he backed off, but Boston had no idea that he was in danger, that this person he'd been fucking with, who walked right up to him and he saw him eye to eye, Boston didn't even know who he was, right? He's been fucking with him for months online, looks at him, he looks the same as he does online and has no idea that that's the guy, and he's standing right there getting ready to punch him in the face, and Boston has no idea he's there. So like the situational awareness, I mean, all of it points to, and these are, you can find these things online, these things, and that's when I stepped back and I said, you know what, I stopped with messing with other people once I found out, who remain nameless online, because I found out they did have something different about them. I don't want to call it a mental illness. I don't want to make it a negative thing. Like if somebody has Aspergers or autism or whatever, ADD or dyslexia, those are things that cause them to see the world through a different view of everyone else. And they're not always necessarily a negative thing. It's just a different way. The problem is a lot of times it comes off as negative because that person doesn't understand what they're doing. They're trying to fuel their I don't want to call it an ailment. They're trying to fuel the thing that they have that's different about them. So they keep acting a certain way, not realizing it. Even sometimes they do realize it. Like impulse control is also a problem with Asperger's, which Boston can't hold his tongue. He has impulse controls. He could just stay on his page, but he feels the need to go on other people's pages and interact in a negative way and try to get a rise out of them because he doesn't have impulse control. He can't control himself. He's tried and he can't do it. So therefore, he's just out there doing the same stuff year after year after year, and it's not changing. And he's not understanding what he's doing is not really working. He's getting some negative attention, which makes him infamous, not famous, and he thinks he's famous. That's not what it is. So I wanted to put this up and clear this real quick, real now, because right when I saw that person starting to argue back, I was like, shit, we need to get this out so that, like, the reason why I'm not arguing with him, the reason why I'm not going after him, the reason why it doesn't make any sense is I don't feel like arguing with someone or going after them in a negative way to try to make them upset or miserable when they have, I'm going to call it a condition, when they have a condition that doesn't allow them to see reality in the real way. That's not fair. That's not fair to that person. So it doesn't matter how unfair Boston's being to me and other people by doing what he does to make himself feel better. It's not fair to him for us to go back after him and defend ourselves and attack him, knowing that he has all these things going on that he can't control, that he may not even be aware are there because he's not diagnosed, or he may even be in denial about what's wrong with him. Either way, it's time to be the bigger person in this instance, because this is not just someone being an asshole. This is not someone being a jerk. This is not just someone being a narcissist. This is someone who has deep, deep issues, okay, that definitely needs medical help, not someone to argue back with them. And not especially someone on my page defending me. Now, the person is going to remain nameless. Thank you for defending me on my own page. And I'm sure you're probably like, why isn't Jerry blasting this guy? Jerry's a different guy than he was 2, 3, 4 years ago when he was arguing with these people. I keep calling and telling myself in the third person, I am different than I was. But at the same time, I'm also understanding when something like that is brought up to me, because you can't. I had a roommate that had Aspergers, and I understand it very well. My roommate Chris, back in 2009, I moved into the condo with him and Ilan, and I get to know a lot about people with Aspergers. I get to know a lot about how his mind works and a lot about how life is seen through their eyes, and it made me understand. So when I was told, hey, look, here's the link, go look at all the symptoms and look, and I was like, damn, now some of us may have, a symptom here and there, but like, anxiety is another symptom, depression is another exists. I mean, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, is another symptom. The ability to focus on something intensely. I mean, this, it's a unique sense of humor. He does have a unique sense of humor. A high esteem for fairness and honesty, right? He's always talking about, well, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth, right? Truth, it's honest, honest. He fits almost every criteria for Asperger's. He just has not been diagnosed, or he has been and doesn't want to put it out there for whatever reason. Either way, it's his business, but I feel like we should at least treat him based on what we see here, that we should not go after him, not argue with him, because it's not fair to him. We're not arguing with somebody on the same level as us. He's in a different spot, a different level, doing a different thing. And us getting wrapped up into that and egging it on and putting it out there is not going to help him or anyone else. It's going to make more negativity and just make a problem. So I wash my hands of it. I put this video out. You guys can take with it what you want. You can do the research for yourself. But it is in my opinion that someone with this many things that lines up like that, sorry, we ran out of room on the camera here. So it is my opinion for what I'm going to do for myself, and you guys can base your own opinions and look up these things yourself and try to understand Asperger's more yourself. But anyone that is on the scale or has Asperger's or anything like that sees the world through different eyes, and I don't feel like we should be interacting with them in a world that we don't understand, right? They're interacting in a world that they don't understand fully, and their world we don't understand. So they're interacting how they would in their world, and it makes sense to them, but we don't understand it. So it's two worlds colliding, and rather than arguing and fighting and colliding and trying to bash each other, I think that we should be trying to figure each other out, help each other get along, rather than let this continue. Because it's been years that Boston has been doing this, and people fight back with him. That feeds into it, and he actually likes that. You know what I mean? It actually makes him feel like he's vindicated, and that, again, that recognition that he gets is enough that lets him say, well, I'm doing the right thing because people are reacting to me. If they're reacting to me, they like me. Even if they're saying negative and derogatory things, if they're reacting, they like me. That's what his brain perceives that as. I'm a good person. They like me. They want more of this. When in reality, what they want is the drama, because that's drama. Drama's fun for a lot of people. And it's not really necessarily the fact that they like him or want to interact with him, but they feel like they want to defend themselves from an attack that is completely baseless most times. But they don't understand that it's not baseless. In Boston's world, he has a whole different reality that he's looking at that we don't even understand. So how could we possibly interact with that if we don't even understand it? That's my whole point, and hopefully this video will do more good than harm. And again, I'm not saying he has Asperger's, all right? This is my personal opinion. This is a professional's personal opinion, and this is all the data right now that matches up with all the way that he acts that we've seen throughout the years. It's up to him to go out there and possibly get the diagnosis if he ever sees this. These things are online. You can take a test yourself if you don't want to go into the doctor to get a formal diagnosis to see if you may lie there. There are tests you can take. I took one for ADD before I actually went in to get a test for ADD to see if I actually had it. And taking that test actually led me to understand that I probably have ADD, and it actually helped me get diagnosed and helped my life a lot more. So this is more of a video to try to help than bash. This is not a bash video. I do not want negativity coming out of this. I want reality and information to come from this, that people actually look at this a different way than what we've been doing for the last 4, 5, 6 years, however long Boston's been doing this. We've been feeding into it, and it does nothing but get worse and consistently keeps him doing it. And it doesn't affect him. He feels good doing this because he gets to live in his own reality. What he does is affect other people in a negative way, and which shouldn't happen because we're not in his reality. So now at least we know he has a different reality. We can treat him differently and understand the fact that, look, there's no point to arguing. Like, I don't even understand what he's trying to do. I don't understand what he's thinking. I don't understand him. So I'll listen to him. I'll enjoy the drama that goes on, but trying to fight back doesn't make any sense. So hopefully you guys are doing well with this whole COVID thing, and this finds you safe and sound in your house and healthy. And by all means, guys, now is the time, since we have time and we're on lockdown, to really try to expand your mind and become a better person. And I think videos like this actually will be something that will do a lot more good than harm. So biohistorytraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. Biohistorytraining.com is a blog. I'm Biohistory, and I approve this message, and we're out.